The stopping of the genocide and liberation of Rwanda by the Rwanda Patriotic Front marked the end of a dictatorship and sectarian regime and a beginning of a new era. The new leadership embarked on rebuilding the nation and leading its people out of poverty. Among the new development programs introduced was gender promotion as the country's long-term development strategy. The 2020 vision would require the strength and participation of all citizens.
FPR n'ingabo zari zayo kwanza bagarika genocide.
When the Rwanda Patriotic Front and its military wing stopped the genocide, many things within the country had been destroyed. When the new government of national unity was put in place on 19th of July 1994, it outlined an 8-point program that it was to follow. Implementing it would have been impossible without the participation of women. There was need for men and women to complement each other.
16 years on, the government's decision to promote gender is yielding best practices in many national sectors and in many parts of the country.
This is a testimony to the fact that we can no longer accommodate politics of division of any kind, not at all. Let it be understood that it's not just about having a bigger number. It's also about the impact that number should have in our country's development. Rwandan women leaders, use your position to solve problems, especially those specifically affecting Rwandese women.
Inspired by a strong political will and spearheaded at the country's top level of leadership, Rwanda started implementing the strategies embedded in international treaties and agreements on gender that it had ratified. Government also set up national institutions whose main role was to promote gender. It started with the creation of the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion.
When the government of Rwanda created this ministry, its objective was to tap a Western effort and bring it to participate in the country's development. To have an institution or a body that is in charge of monitoring how women and men can work together to attain development with no effort wasted. Even though there are other ministries in charge of Rwandan population in general, the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion was needed to coordinate efforts from a section of the population that had remained behind so as to include everyone in the country's development.
These new changes required enactment of laws that would oversee the implementation process. The National Parliament enacted laws that favored gender equality and repealed those that marginalized women.
We examined the law to identify some of the provisions that were not gender sensitive. Some articles had discriminatory elements based on gender. The Forum for Women Parliamentarians requested the House to amend these laws. That is exactly what happened beginning from the Constitution. The change rectified many wrongs that hampered women's development.
The country's new constitution allocated to women at least 30% representation in decision-making positions. Subsequently, Rwanda's parliament hit the world record in women representation with 56.25%. With women and men parliamentarians working together, enactment of gender-sensitive laws was much faster.
It was possible for some men not to understand this development, but many understood it, knowing that this was another much-needed effort for the country's development and that it would not be wasted. It was not a surprise then that men understood that these efforts had to be gathered at any cost. In order to carry out this campaign successfully, the parliament had to enact laws that would favor gender balance and allow women some of the rights that they had been deprived of. And with a higher number of women and men parliamentarians who supported gender balance, enacting these laws was done effectively and swiftly.
Among the new laws was one allowing women and girls to inherit property and land, the law on matrimonial regimes, and one punishing gender-based violence crimes. Immaculée Mukandori is among the first beneficiaries of law reform. She defended her right under the new law when relatives connived to take a piece of land which she inherited from her father.
If I had been a man, it would have taken a different trend because initially they thought only male children had the rights to inherit property. I was only saved by the law which recognizes the rights of inheritance to girls. That's one thing that I commend this government for. They intervened at a time when women had serious problems, so I thank the government.
Today, the number of women in decision-making positions, include those in government, private sector and civil society, is significantly increasing. Consequently, women are represented in the process of decision-making.
Byatumye muri iyi politiki mu nzego z'ibanze hari inama
The National Women's Council is structured in such a way that women are represented way down to village level. This is according to the Constitution, which stipulates a 30% quota of women representation on decision-making levels.
Ibi rero byatumye no kureba ka karengane bakorerwaga gashira cyangwa abantu bashobora kugakurikirana kugira ngo.
So, the women's role in leadership has also helped in identifying and resolving some of the prejudices they used to suffer. At the same time, women's efforts in development and good governance have been critical in implementing government programs.
National development and poverty alleviation programs too have been faring better with the participation of both men and women. In a society where men used to be the only breadwinners, women now have an active role in supporting their homes. Empowering women to access credit funds has built their confidence to engage in business, and this has reduced economic dependence to men as it used to be. Small and medium enterprises run by women are rising in number. Women are also involved in international business ventures. For example, Nibagwire Donatil started from humble beginnings as a banana farmer. Today, she exports bananas to European markets and provides employment to a significant number of people.
If we had continued to think of a woman as somebody who should sit at home and wait to be fed without her playing part in earning income, we would be nowhere. But today, women have stood up and they understand that it is their duty to promote the welfare of their families and development of the country in general. This means that if we continue like this, at one time we will wonder if this is the old Rwanda that we used to know. And by the way, even today it's evident. If people from several parts of the world come to Rwanda to see the progress made, it's partly because of the contribution done by women. These efforts had been thwarted, but today it's no longer the case. We will achieve even much in the future.
Today, more women in Rwanda have demystified the involvement in some of the social and commercial activities that tradition had unfairly tagged as for men only. At Rwamhanga Lake in eastern Rwanda, women and men work together in a fishing activity.
I get into the waters and get fish. My children are healthy because they get a balanced diet. I also sell fish and raise money to solve some of my problems.
My wife and I work together. We put our earnings together to develop our home.
It is no longer a surprise to find that ladies like Clarisse know every single spare part in a shop like this. With little capital from a women's bank, her business has grown to multi-million worth.
I joined the cooperative bank in the year 2000. The first thing that I benefited is that I've learned how to save and how to apply for credit. I have progressed a lot. I started business with a capital of 300,000. Today, the bank can offer me a credit of 20 million. Working together with my husband, we've been able to construct a house and to expand my business.
Cooperatives involving men and women members are also increasing. This leads to social transformation of rural societies. Such is evident in Rubavu and Nyabihu districts in Rwanda's western province, where Koimu Local Farmers Cooperative has helped to improve social welfare in the area. It has 1,645 members, of which 856 are women.
Dufite ahangaho umurima wa koperative duhingamo igihingwa cy'ibirayi.
Our cooperative has a piece of land where we cultivate Irish potatoes. My job is to supervise workers to cultivate the farm. Our cooperative helps me a lot. When I need money, they offer me a credit. I'm able to send all my 4 children in school. They give us seeds at a good price, and we also make sure we pay back the cooperative's money.
Men and women who work together in this cooperative have been transformed in their understanding of gender.
Whenever we are going to plan something for our home, we do it together. We sit and agree on how to use our money. It may be a piece of land we want to buy or clothes. We have to agree on it. Sometimes she thinks she has enough clothes and may decide it's my turn with the children. We agree on everything. Before people started understanding gender, women were excluded on a number of issues. For example, a man would sell off his cow and then he would spend all the money with his friends. But with more people understanding what gender means, no man can sell his cow without agreeing on it with his wife.
In government's 2015 education target and the 9-year program has made it possible for Rwandan youngsters to continue in secondary thanks to the government's free basic education program and the private sector involvement, which has facilitated more girls, especially from poor families, to access education. Inscription in primary schools has now risen to 92%, and Rwanda has already fulfilled its MDG target of having an equal number of boys and girls in school. To finish basic education, young girls are no longer staying at home to leave room for their brothers due to financial constraints in the family. Initiatives such as Imbuto Foundation in the Office of the First Lady have been encouraging performance among young girls in school through rewarding schemes.
We have been pursuing 3 main goals: encouraging girls to go to school, encouraging them to continue to the highest levels of education, and encouraging them to pass highly and to be exceptional. The increase of private universities and colleges too has helped increase the number of girls and women who complete studies at university level. Female students in private universities represent 52% of the total number. This is one of the ways through which we will encourage women to go to school. I do this every time I speak to women and girls when I meet them in church or somewhere else. I encourage them to go to school because once they have defeated ignorance, it's a breakthrough.
However, the number of female students who graduate from government universities is relatively low compared to those in private institutions. And in secondary schools, girls are reluctant in taking on science and technology courses compared to boys.
The most important thing is to believe in your ability to do anything. That way, you don't fail and you keep your interest burning. You develop interest in reading books related to that field. You have to be confident. Many times you meet people who discourage you, but you have to build your confidence first so that any waves of discouragement will find you already firm.
Another area where gender has been instrumental in improving social welfare is in the implementation of government's health programs. Most community health agents are women. They play a key role in encouraging people to join community health insurance schemes. They also teach reproductive health lessons to the community. Consequently, infant and maternal mortality rates have dropped significantly.
Community health insurance has been very helpful. The number of people who access hospital facilities when they are sick has risen to over 70%. Even the number of women who give birth from the hospital has gone up beyond 80% and 100% in some places. One of the reasons behind this is the availability of medical insurance. We now have a plan to reward women who have come for pregnancy tests at least 4 times. This will help us to know why some people do not come for testing and to plan how to encourage them to do so. Coming for pregnancy tests is harmless and it's free. So if we continue in the health insurance program, doing proper pregnancy tests and giving birth from hospital, we shall be able to reduce the number of mothers who die during childbirth.
Understanding gender has also played an important role in advancing family planning and birth control among rural families. While birth control in Rwanda was traditionally a practice mainly undertaken by women, the men have also come on board. Jean Bosco Mbonyinhindi is among the men who practice vasectomy as a birth control method.
I have 6 children. The last born is in primary 2. When I decided to go for vasectomy, my wife was getting tired of giving birth. I was the one who used to help her count in one of our traditional birth control methods. But time came and I decided to go for vasectomy. Now, we no longer have babies all the time. We do activities at home and in our garden, and when we decide to go out, my wife is clean and smart. I'm proud of her being my wife. It's different from before when we used to have children every other year. I now feel secure, and each time I look at my wife, I see a new person.
More activities that reflect rural development boosted by men and women working together can be found in eastern Rwanda, where some women trained on how to generate power from solar energy. This has improved the welfare of the people in their village.
After training from outside Rwanda, we have been sharing our knowledge with people from 2 provinces on how to generate solar energy. We first trained women from Byumba. We are now training women from Ruhengeri. This is an important development because we are spreading the knowledge to other parts of Rwanda. They can now see how it is developing their homes.
We no longer buy paraffin. My children used to have difficulties in reading at night. Today, we have power, they do their studies very well, and they even get time to play after homework. We are no longer worried about consumption of paraffin. In general, our village is exemplary.
When Rwanda instituted the Gacaca courts as a means to speed up trials of genocide suspects and facilitate reconciliation, gender was given an important place. In a society where adjudication of social matters was traditionally a male role, involving women has proven to be an enormous contribution to justice, reconciliation, and emotional healing.
Women are actively involved in the functioning of Gacaca courts at every level. Some of them are heads of courts and many others are court secretaries. This has brought an added value to highlighting the role of women in building Rwanda. In several hearings that we attended, women have taken their place. They speak the truth and they are impartial in judging cases. This has changed the image of the Rwandan women because Gacaca Court provided a platform to show her ability. Whereas judgment of cases was traditionally a male role, it has now been evident that women can too do it and do it well.
Among Rwanda's most cherished achievements is peace and security, and women have played their role in it. In 2001, when genocide fugitives and rebel forces caused insurgency in northern Rwanda, they could not sit back. Boniface Rucagu was then the governor of the northern province.
Women intervened quickly. They called on their children, their husbands, and other relatives to return. That was very useful. In fact, women would come with their husbands and they would introduce them to us. They would say, "This is my husband who has been among the insurgents. I asked him to come home and he agreed. Here he is."
Thousands abandoned insurgency and joined their families in Rwanda. Among them, 45-year-old Sibomana Baltazar. He remembers how his wife went to persuade him to return home.
At that time, women played a vital role in bringing their husbands home. I was out there, then I saw my wife coming to me. I took my time and agreed to return. When I arrived in the country, the impact was positive. My life has been reorganized. After I was demobilized, I started a project of going back to school. My wife continues to help me in the process. It's been 5 years now. It's true that I was given some money by the Demobilization Commission and we had money from our other projects and friends, but coordinating all this throughout the 5 years was done by my wife. So I think I've not lost anything listening to my wife. Instead, I've reorganized myself and I recognize how important she is in my life.
Anne-Marie Musabyemungu went to rebel positions in the DRC to convince her husband to return. She says this has had a positive impact on her family.
ubuzima bwo buratandukanye cyane nyenda nakwiheraho.
Life is very different. For example, I was a secondary school teacher. I remained with the same qualification that I had before 1994. I couldn't have gone to school even if I had gotten a bursary because I had children to look after. But when my husband returned, I went back to school and completed university. When I returned, I served in different posts in the academia. I later ran for parliamentary elections and I was elected. Today, I'm a member of parliament.
And having contributed to Rwanda's peaceful environment, there are a number of Rwandan women and men involved in foreign peacekeeping missions. In Darfur, men and women from the Rwandan army and police initiated the use of energy-saving stove, which saved thousands of Sudanese women from rape that they were subjected to while collecting firewood. The National Police considers gender-based violence a serious crime. So they have a dedicated desk for it.
We established focal points at each police station, and we have 69 police stations countrywide. And these focal points were trained in how to deal with the survivors of child, domestic, and gender-based violence.
Rwandan police has also established a one-stop center to care for victims of gender-based violence. Dr. Grace Giraneza heads the medical center.
We give them explanation and we try to tell them what services we are going to give them. These are medical care, psychosocial care, and medico-legal care, and we also have a legal support, because we have got an officer of the judicial police who is here in permanent to receive people who want to report their abuse to the police.
And the Constitutional Gender Monitoring Office, the first of its kind on the African continent, was established to serve as a government observatory on gender matters.
This institution specifically oversees the implementation of the principle of gender equality in government institutions, private sector, civil society, and religious bodies. There are national development programs in areas such as education, economy, and social welfare. We monitor to see if these programs respect the principle of gender equality.
As an observatory on gender matters, the Constitutional Gender Monitoring Office advises on policies that can enhance gender promotion at all levels, such as the private sector, government institutions, and religious organizations.
The first challenge we have is lack of disaggregated data showing the gender situation in the country. As you know, we have the National Institute of Statistics. Our institution works with them to establish tools to help release gender disaggregated data. In this regard, we decided to approach different sectors in order to show them how they can incorporate gender in the programs they implement.
On the international development scale, Rwanda's pace appreciated thanks to the complementary roles between its men and women.
I would say that Rwanda has made giant strides in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. Things are not taken for granted. It comes almost as a natural. Rwanda does have some excellent practices to transport across its borders. It is very encouraging what is happening in Rwanda, spearheaded at the very highest level of leadership.
Generally, national gender promotion strategies continue, and many see the best practices currently resulting from Rwandan women and men working together as just the beginning of a bright future for Rwanda and its people.